Talk about how these other opportunities for music, both TV and commercials, have had an impact on the breaking of fun.
Well, I would say it was the most pivotal thing in the band's career so far, and here's why. I think culturally, some of the things that you talked about 20 years ago, if you had seen maybe REM do a commercial, we would have been like, what is going on with these guys? Why are we doing this? But what has started to happen is that youth today is so inundated with some of that stuff that actually when they see something used in a commercial, a band that they know, that they recognize, that they like, they actually think in a lot of cases it's cool if the commercials are done tastefully. And so what the early days of Fun and We Are Young, specifically the first single, that was not an automatic at radio. There was a lot of concerns that the song was too dramatic, or was this or that, and as you know, there can be a million excuses for radio not to play things. And so we always felt like, what, we have to get the song other exposures, and TV and ultimately the Chevy commercial was one of the ways to do it. And we really felt good about the Chevy situation because we just thought the commercial was actually cool, like what they were doing with throwing a car out of a plane or bungee jumping with a, we just thought they were doing a cool commercial. And ultimately the music worked so well within that commercial that people really responded from it, and what initially happened is when that commercial ran, we weren't very far along at radio at all. We had a few stations on it, but not a lot. And the few that were on it were testing it out for us. And that commercial drove the single into the top 10 at iTunes. And people saw that commercial and they started to Shazam it. They started using all these technologies that you can do to figure out what song was that. And then their default was, lucky for us, that they were going to iTunes and they were buying it. And then what that did for the overall plan was it showed the record label that the song was reactive. And so they had an exposure. People were really reacting to it. And then they were able to take that information and go to radio and say, look how this song is responding off of this commercial. This is what's starting to happen to us. And radio, is still an important part, but it is way more of a follower these days than a leader. And with that information, we were able to get more people to take chances on it. And in some ways, it's another intangible. But, once the record started to go on the radio, it was getting that same sort of response that then made radio even more invested because they were getting the right response from the song that they were playing.
Love it. Good stuff. And by the way, I was talking to one of the guys in the office today, having talked to, three young up-and-coming bands today. I'm going to take all this evidence to the singer and Incubus, my friend Brandon Boyd, who took 10 years before he would okay licensing our music for ESPN because he thought that wasn't cool.
I'll tell you a story. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and I wound up in a room of 20 Vanderbilt students. This is about 3 or 4 years ago. And we were just talking, and I asked everybody in the room, I said, tell me one of your favorite artists. And a bunch of kids all raised their hand and said Ben Harper. And I said, well, how would you feel if Ben Harper put his song in a car commercial? And the response I got from everybody in the room was, that would be cool because we actually like Ben Harper, so it would be good to hear him on the TV versus all the other lame stuff that they use right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's what you said. It's a cultural shift there, I think, and now because artists are part of that cultural shift, I think it becomes less of an issue.